All right, let's talk about something. Have you ever just had that feeling deep down that a piece of you is missing? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea: how our childhood literally sculpts the adults we become, and why so many of us walk around feeling, well, incomplete. So let's just start with a big question that I think hits home for a lot of us. Why is it that so many of us get to adulthood and feel like something's not quite right? Like we're missing a key ingredient to being whole. In the whole idea we're digging into today, it's captured perfectly in this one quote. It suggests that we don't start out broken or flawed. We actually start out complete. And maybe, just maybe, our whole life's mission is simply to find our way back to that original wholeness. So, how in the world does this happen? Let's get into our first section: born whole, sculpted by society. I want you to imagine it like this. When we're born, we're like stem cells. We have this almost infinite potential to become anything. But right from day one, the world around us starts to shape and mold us. And here's the engine driving that whole process. From our very first year, our brain is hardwired for one thing above all else: survival. And for a tiny human, survival equals connection. So it's constantly, unconsciously scanning our environment, asking this one critical question: what do I have to do here to be loved and to stay safe? This is the fundamental need that guides everything. Now, this sculpting happens in two major ways. First, there are the explicit messages, the direct rules we hear over and over, like boys don't cry or be a good girl. But then there's the other side, the implicit messages. And honestly, these are often way more powerful. They're the things we just absorb, the conclusions we draw from a parent's smile or a sudden frown or their silence. And these are the messages that often get passed down through generations, shaping us without us ever even knowing it's happening. All right, in our second section, let's break this down even further. We're going to look at what the source material calls the four poles of self. Think of these as the fundamental building blocks of who you are. First up, you've got sensation. This is our most basic connection to our physical body. It's the shell we live in. It's about touch, gut feelings, taste, all the physical information our body is constantly taking in. It's our most direct, unfiltered link to the world. Next, we have emotion. Now, this isn't just about feeling things randomly. You have to think of emotions as this ancient, brilliant internal feedback system. It's basically evolutionary wisdom. Anger tells you a boundary's been crossed. Fear signals danger. These are vital messages about what we need. The third pole is thinking. This is our brain's superpower, right? It's our ability to use logic, to reason, to create these abstract instruction manuals for how everything works. It's the part of us that analyzes, organizes, and tries to make sense of our experiences. And finally, there's behavior. This is the world of action, of doing. It's how all that internal stuff, our sensations, emotions, and thoughts, gets expressed out in the real world. It's how we interact with everything and everyone around us. Okay, so here's where things get complicated. We're not really encouraged to develop all four of these poles equally. As you can see here, society often sends these really strong gendered messages. Men are often pushed towards thinking and behavior, right? But discouraged from sensation and most emotions, except for maybe anger. For women, it can be the total opposite: an emphasis on emotion, but maybe a discouragement of certain types of competitive behavior. So right from the start, an imbalance is created. And, this imbalance, it isn't free. It comes with a cost. In this next section, we're going to get into the price of repression. What actually happens when essential parts of who we are get silenced, or as the source calls it, atrophied. Just listen to this quote from the source material. "I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times I cried in my life." I mean, wow. Think about that for a second. It's such a stark, powerful example of how deeply that emotion pole can get buried, especially for men because of those societal messages we just talked about. Because here's the thing, those repressed feelings, they don't just disappear into thin air. Nope, they go underground and then create this enormous internal pressure. And that leads to all sorts of things: chronic tension, major problems in relationships, and this profound disconnection from our own body's signals. We can even develop actual physical illnesses because we've literally trained ourselves to ignore our body's warning signs. So what's the mechanism here? Well, it's kind of like a seesaw. When you push one part of yourself down, like your emotions, another part has to shoot up to overcompensate. We might pour every ounce of our energy into our jobs and become workaholics, or just get obsessed with doing things so we never have to stop and feel. We end up just running on autopilot, totally deaf to the wisdom our own body is trying to share with us. But look, it's not all doom and gloom. Not at all. Healing is totally possible. And that brings us to our fourth section, healing in relationships, where we'll see how our closest connections can actually be the very place we start to put ourselves back together. Okay, to get this, we have to talk about something called the imago. It's basically an unconscious blueprint that we all carry around, a template of what love is, and it's built from all those experiences in our childhood. And here's the crazy part. It's this very template that completely unconsciously draws us to partners who will, you guessed it, challenge us to face and heal those exact missing parts of ourselves. And this is why it works. Your closest relationships, especially with a partner, they become a kind of mirror. They reflect back at you, not just your good stuff, but also, sometimes pretty painfully, the exact pieces of you that are underdeveloped or missing. They show you exactly where you need to grow. So, the big question is, how do we actually do this? How do we take an active role in our own healing? Well, our final section is all about that. It's about listening to your body and reconnecting with that incredibly powerful inner compass we all have. So, how do we start? It's not some giant leap. It's actually about taking 4 conscious steps. First up, cultivate curiosity. Just stop and ask yourself, hey, what am I feeling in my body right now? Second, whatever it is, just sit with it. Allow that sensation to just be there, without immediately trying to run from it or fix it. Third, you start to decode the signals. You learn what your fatigue is really telling you, or what that knot in your stomach means. And finally, you use that information to drop the autopilot and start making conscious choices, especially when your body is screaming no. And really, it all boils down to this one simple truth. Our minds, they can twist themselves into pretzels to justify almost anything. But our bodies, they don't have that agenda. The source material is so clear on this. Your body never lies. It's the ultimate compass for your most authentic self. So the only question that's left is, are you ready to listen?